Today we are going to learn about the art of storytelling through your resume. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you why storytelling is important and what are some of the common myths and mistakes you should avoid while preparing your resume for your B school admissions. First, let's understand why storytelling is important. See, a business school resume for your MBA admissions, MIM, MIF, MSBA admissions is very different from your job resume. In a job resume is only document that you need to provide, and in most cases you directly move to the interview round. Sometimes it is supported by a cover letter. When you are applying for an MBA, MIM or MIF program, resume is just one piece of the puzzle. The application typically starts with your GPA, GMAT score, then moves over to your resume. After that, the AdCom member reads your essays, then your letter of recommendation, and finally, you're invited to an interview. In this structure, resume is part of a bigger arc. Resume is part of a bigger storyline that you are going to be putting out. And that's why your resume also needs to tell a story on its own. And that's what we will be focusing on in this video. How can you design, how can you craft a resume which tells a story? But before we jump into designing and crafting your resume, let's talk about a few myths and mistakes candidates should avoid. Two things I want to talk about before I show you some live case studies are: first, no one reads your resume. Second, quantity over quality. What I mean by the first one, that no one reads your resume. A lot of times we see resumes which are stuffed to the brink. I have seen 4-page resume from a fresh graduate, and all of you invest so many hours, and I have done this mistake myself, of writing bullet point after bullet point, thinking that the reader would be focusing on every bullet point and I just want to tell them every little bit of my story that I have done in my life. The reality is most recruiters spend 6 to 10 seconds on your resume. Shocking? If you don't believe me, let me show you what Stanford says on its official website for MBA admissions. On the screenshot, you will see that even Stanford tells you that most recruiters spend 6 to 8 seconds while reading your resume. If you still can't believe it, let me challenge you. Think about the last time you were helping your friend or you were recruiting for your company, and think if you actually read a resume or did you just skim that resume. How many resumes have you actually read in your life where you sat down and read the bullet point after bullet point? Take 2 seconds and think about it. You can't think of a time you read a resume? Unfortunately, that's the reality. No one reads a resume. Everyone just skims a resume. And that's why going forward in this video, we will be focusing a lot on how to design a resume which can be skimmed. There's an art to attract eye attention in proper areas so that your recruiter can get to know your story within those 6 to 10 seconds. Second thing before we move forward is quantity over quality. See, when you are applying to top schools like Harvard, Stanford, HEC, INSEAD, LBS, trust me, you are not going to win by stuffing more and more bullet points in your resume. A lot of candidates think, let me just add every little consulting oriented bullet point, marketing work I have done, let me show them the leadership, let me show them how awesome I am at collaboration, and the resume just keeps on extending and it looks like there is no header in a resume, there's no footer in the resume, it is just stuffed to the brink. The reality is, at this level, trust me, the kind of competition you are facing, everyone have done enough work to fill 5 pages of a resume. So if you are thinking that you can design a longer resume or just use a 1-page resume but stuff it with more and more content, that's not going to help you win. In today's culture, candidates start preparing for Ivy League admits while they are in primary and secondary schools. We have seen candidates who started focusing on a particular sports or a society, music club, art clubs, just for the sake of having those bullet points on their resume. But in reality, what we see as admissions consultant, more often than not, candidates who have just focused on one or two good things where they have gone on to represent their school, university at a state or a national level, those are the resume that stands out because there's a story there, there's an achievement there. Instead of doing 5 activities where you are just member of a lot of clubs and representing a lot of clubs, if you just focus on 2 things and go on to achieve something in those 2 areas, that will speak a lot more than the 5 participation trophies, right? That's why I will challenge you to focus more on quality of content you have on your resume, remove all the distracting elements, and prepare a 1-page black and white resume which tells your story to the best possible level. And see, I understand why all of us write so many bullet points, why we think every little thing matters. That's what we call FOMO, the fear of missing out. And I have fallen prey to this myself. No matter how many times an MBA coach specifically for resume came to HEC Paris MBA program and taught us how to craft a resume, every time I asked a friend to review my resume, he suggested 2 more bullet points, and I went right ahead and added 2 more bullet points to my resume without taking out 2 bullet points first. And that's how we often land up with these resumes, which are either running into 2 or 3 pages, or even if it's 1 page, but it have like 25 bullet points on it. But what I really want you guys to understand before moving forward is you are not getting any extra bonus points for the extra bullet point you are trying to squeeze in. If you are trying underhanded stuff like reducing the space between bullet points, reducing the size of the font between the headings, it will only end up hurting you. Don't chase stuffing the resume with more and more content. Take a step back, focus on creating a quality resume which tells a story within 6 to 10 seconds. It should be skimmable.